Hello, everyone. Welcome to another Down Around Monologue podcast. I am Bo, and before we get into it, we want to thank our longtime sponsor once again, Ashley Luann K. She's just been a huge supporter of the show. She has a super fun Instagram. Follow her at the Minnesota Nurse. She updates it regularly with pretty cool information, cool stuff, and she even does giveaways. So, guys, check her out there. So today, it's Friday. We're ending our series on the My Memories of the PlayStation 2, and I just want to talk about its legacy. Its legacy is incredible. So, launched in the year 2000, it had games being released all the way to 2015. Its last game was actually in 2015. It was an expansion for Final Fantasy 11, if you believe that, if you believe that. Of course, the servers have stopped. There's no longer online play on the PlayStation 2, and that just happened in 2000. In fact, I think that maybe just happened in 2017 or something, like pretty recent. But its legacy is incredible. We still get hyped about releases from series that start on the PlayStation 2. One of the launch titles for the PlayStation 5, 20 years later, is actually going to be another sequel to Ratchet & Clank. Franchise started on PlayStation 2. Jak and Daxter. Kingdom Hearts, my favorite video game franchise of all time, started on PlayStation 2. So we have a huge legacy, and the PlayStation 2 contributed so much to the success of the subsequent PlayStation systems, 3, 4, and soon the 5. The DualShock is still... This controller, which I just gushed about on Monday, is still the standard for which PlayStation... a lot of things, the pressure-sensitive buttons, we're still using that. The vibration features, being able to press down on those buttons. This is still the standard for the PlayStation family, and I will argue the standard for video games in general. Every system that comes out is trying to meet this guy. This is the one to beat. It's the best-selling video game console of all time by leaps and bounds. The best-selling home console of all time by leaps and bounds. They're all trying to catch up. That is why the PlayStation 3 featured a Blu-ray player, in my opinion, because it wanted to be this again. The online capabilities, all of it, the franchises, and you still see people actively playing the PlayStation 2. It's still everywhere. In fact, it's still one of the most popular systems to buy at these old secondhand shops that I see, like Super Mega Replay, stuff like that, where they buy these classic systems. GameStop has begun selling and buying classic systems at certain locations, and this is there. When I was well into the PlayStation 3's lifespan, a lot of people in Evansville, because they just didn't want to hawk out the new money for a new system, was playing this. This is also the first system I can remember having simultaneous releases where games were coming out for the PlayStation 3 and still coming out for this. I do remember that happening. So there was a lot of that going on, like a lot of that. And it's, like I said, this is the guy to beat. And we still haven't done it. We still haven't. We're still chasing this guy's legacy. I can remember, I actually personally didn't own a PlayStation 2. I played it a lot, but I didn't own it until a little later in its lifespan, and it's still incredible how much it holds up. It's incredible how much we're talking about games that were released on this. It's incredible how much franchises that were released on this are still the industry standard. They're still the biggest release. Like, people freaked out about that Ratchet & Clank announcement. Why? Because they remember these awesome times of playing Ratchet & Clank on PlayStation 2. A lot of these kids nowadays that are into PlayStations, their first secondhand system was a PlayStation 2. It's kind of funny that the PlayStation 3 did so poorly compared to the other systems, and so releasing first seems to have a lot to do with it, and the PlayStation 2 taught us that. Releasing first in a generation has a lot to do with how well you're going to do, because people just want the latest and greatest, right? And this is the first system I can remember it being a big deal that it was the latest and greatest. Otherwise, it was just who you were brand loyal to. You know, what games you wanted to play. But there is something to be said about being first nowadays. It blew its competitors, the GameCube and the Xbox, the original Xbox, out of the water. Blew them out of the water. They didn't even come close to it. They're not even the top 10 best-selling game consoles of all time, much less number one. And its ubiquity was kind of funny. Not funny, but its ubiquity was interesting because you can relate to anyone of my generation with a PlayStation 2. Anyone. It's when gaming sort of became a big thing. I remember Redman had a song in like the year 2000, and one of the lyrics was he just said PlayStation 2. That was, I mean, just in the middle of the song, he said da 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 something, and then he said PlayStation 2. It was just a flex to have a PlayStation 2. And this is Redman. This is a huge rapper on MTV, on TRL or whatever was on 2000, saying PlayStation 2. Like, it just became the normal thing to have a PlayStation 2, right? It's sort of what created, and we've talked about that before, right? 2000, 2001, all this nerd culture stuff became extremely mainstream, and it became cool to like it. So we have all this going on. And this is just, things were just blowing up, man. And it's because of the PlayStation 2. Like I said, it was supported until 2015. That's incredible. 15 years of support for one console. That's incredible. I think the NES was actually supported in Japan for quite a long time, but I don't think quite that long of time. And that support was in North America, where we're all about throwing out the old and getting the new. So, PlayStation 2s are extremely affordable. I think you could buy a memory card, and a controller at one of those secondhand shops, all for like $40. And games are hyper cheap because so many of these games were produced that you could just get games for hyper cheap. And there's, like I said, when I held the controller on Monday, there's something about, most of these games are available to buy on newer systems, but there's something about going back and holding an original. There's something about playing an original. And as I said another day, I don't envy the guy that has to make the classic version of this, that has to pick out what games get to go on it, which games don't. Because, I mean, off the top of my head, I could rattle off like 50 right now. So the PlayStation 2 was sort of the first holy grail of video games. It was sort of the first one where it was like, it was such an iconic thing just to own it. It wasn't about the games that it came with. It wasn't about the games that it had on it. It was just owning it was such a flex, was such a status symbol back in the day. And that's something we've just always loved about the system. And I really, gosh, I think it might be my favorite system of all time. Most of the franchises I love the most started here. Most of what I'm passionate about with video games was started here. World building became bigger in video games. Almost all my favorite franchises, some of the best examples of their games: Final Fantasy X, Dragon Quest VIII, Metal Gear Solid 3, Snake Eater. Most of my favorite franchises had their best title. Kingdom Hearts 2. They had their first one on the PlayStation 2. The PlayStation 2 was just something about that period of time. It was just lucky in that sense, maybe. Something about that period of time. I remember my senior year of high school. I graduated 2005. On our last day of school, a kid brought his PlayStation 2, and we just played PlayStation 2 in all of our classes throughout the day. A lot of kids brought in PlayStation 2s. They didn't bring in an Xbox. They didn't bring in a GameCube. And as much as I loved Melee, as much as I loved Fable, as much as I loved these other games, no one else had enough games to compete. Nintendo fell short of great games to compete with this. That's saying something. That's saying a lot. Because Nintendo first-party games are just indisputable, in my opinion. But the PlayStation 2... In fact, I believe our good friend Kyron, a Nintendo purist, this is the second time I mentioned him this week, but I think even a Nintendo purist like Kyron will have to admit the power and the legacy and the status of the PlayStation 2. I don't think he can deny it. And I think that's the undeniability of it. The ubiquity and undeniability of it, I think, are two huge things with the PlayStation 2. I don't know what else to say, guys. Go out and buy one. They're super cheap. Go out and buy one. Buy some of the games that have been re-released. I mean, Rockstar Games, this is where they blew up. Rockstar Games was not a huge game studio until this. Now they're one of the biggest ones in the world. They have the money to throw out for A-list actors to appear in their video games. They absolutely do because of this console, because of the success they had on this console. The capabilities that and it was the last big leap in consoles, in my opinion. It was the last big, like, oh my God. Because nowadays we're like, man, that looks impressive. But this was the last, oh my God, look at this. And I think the legacy of the PlayStation 2 is that I can think of a week's worth of content to talk to you guys about. And I'm not even done. I could do more on the PlayStation 2. I might do more PlayStation 2 next week. But just from walking down a road where I grew up, just that walking on the road, I could be flooded with so many memories of PlayStation 2. Just because I'll be walking past something. I remember driving by that on my way to play Kingdom Hearts over at a friend's house. You know, something like that. So, guys, go out and get you a PlayStation 2. Go out and buy one, plug it in, and play it and experience this. Get a CRT TV and really complete the experience. Jak and Daxter's a precursor legacy. Metal Gear Solid 3, Snake Eater, Kingdom Hearts, for God's sakes. Go out and check out some of these classic Final Fantasy X. These classic amazing titles on the original console. Because as much as I love these re-releases on these new consoles, there's something about playing them on the original that you just can't replace. There really is. So guys, let's make this. Let's go out and experience this for yourselves. And guys, as always, we've got the link still up. Check out the merch, check out the Patreon, check out the Discord. Please, we're having a lot of fun in all those places. Like, share, and subscribe. And if you want to listen to some more awesome content, check out Keegan over at the Framework of Tomorrow. He runs a great show there. History buffs will love it. We always want to support our brothers and sisters in the Rally Network. And guys, I can't wait to see you next week. Thank you.